Welcome everyone to this informational webinar for the Bankhead Coley Cancer Research Program, James and Esther King Biomedical Research Program, and Live Like Bella Pediatric Cancer Research Initiative. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Bonnie Gunn-Bailey, the Administrator over Biomedical Research, and she will give you some background on our programs. Bonnie.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for sticking with us even through computer glitches. Computers are great when they work. So we're going to be providing some background and then some lessons learned as well as some helpful tips. First and foremost, on July the 1st, our grant application cycle will open up for Bankhead Coley, King, and Live Like Bella. Beginning on the 1st, that'll be your opportunity to begin submitting letters of intent. The research grant program at the Florida Department of Health was initiated after the tobacco settlement, and the Lawton Child's Endowment Fund was created and partly funds the James and Esther King, which supports research for tobacco-related diseases and cancer. Additionally, state funds help to fund the remaining of the King program as well as Bankhead Coley and Live Like Bella. The endowment is a perpetual source of funding for the James and Esther King tobacco-related disease research program. Please note the different statutes associated with the 3 research programs that we're going to be talking about today. If you've never read the statutes, it does give you a good indication of the program that we have implemented based on that policy. It also talks about that which are required to implement during the application process, but also the reporting requirements that we must accomplish through reporting and then reporting that information to the Senate, the House, and the governor. So $23 million was available for last fiscal year. The governor has signed off on the budget, and for 1920, we have the same dollar amount. So there'll be $10 million for the tobacco-related diseases, James and Esther King, $10 million for cancer research for Bankhead Coley, and then the $3 million for pediatric cancer, Live Like Bella. Now, just one note, the Bankhead Coley is for cancer research. That is for both adults and pediatrics. So we don't get a lot of applications for pediatric cancer research to Bankhead Coley, but I just wanted to make that clear that even though Live Like Bella is pediatric cancer, you do have that flexibility in the Bankhead Coley. Tobacco-related diseases for James and Esther King, that also includes cessation and methods for controlling the addiction. Okay. All right.
No, you go ahead. Okay, so let's talk about these programs a little bit more in depth. The James and Esther King Biomedical Research Program is our longest standing research grant funding program. The priorities include the prevention, cure, and treatment of cancer and tobacco-related illnesses. So that would include stroke, heart disease, COPD, things like that. The goal, as outlined in the funding opportunity announcements, but also presented intended here, improve the health of Florida's families, expand our foundation of biomedical knowledge, etc. We're really trying to build up our state's infrastructure for research as well. So, this last bullet point of stimulating economic activity through a statewide research network and become a premier destination for cancer care is really a big one. And that one we're hoping to help to achieve through our infrastructure grants. So, if you have a great idea for an infrastructure grant that would be a shared instrument or something like that, please apply. This is our history of funding over the last about 12 years now. You can see the spike of applications in the 2010-2011 cycle, but we've kind of evened out over the years. The number of grants awarded is in yellow, and the total amount awarded is in orange, in millions. We were finally able to make our award announcements for the James and Esther King program, and also get out peer review comment reports and scores to anyone who was not funded within the last couple of weeks. And so if you were someone who applied during the last funding cycle, you should have received a notification relatively recently. And if you have not, check your junk email or send us an email at research.flhealth.gov, and we'll be happy to provide that information to you. So yeah, this is our history for King. The Bankhead Coley Cancer Research Program is focused purely on cancer. As Bonnie mentioned, it does allow for applicants to focus on adult or pediatric cancer, and there's the emphasis on expanding access and participation in clinical trials, both adult and pediatric. Live Like Bella really is the program to apply to if you want to focus specifically in pediatric cancer. But if you think that your project would fit better within the Bankhead Coley Cancer Research Program, that would not disqualify you if you were applying with a focus on a cancer that occurs during the pediatric period. We also have an emphasis upon health disparities within this one and all of our grant programs. You can see the chart of our funding history for Bankhead Coley here. Again, the number of applications are in blue. Yellow is for the grants awarded, and orange is for the total amount awarded in millions. We were able to get our grants executed for this one. I think that all of them are executed as of now. And so, if you were one of the ones who was selected for funding, congratulations. And hopefully we'll see applications for you again this cycle. And then Live Like Bella. The priority for this program is, of course, pediatric cancer. The Live Like Bella Pediatric Cancer Research Initiative gets its name from Bella Rodriguez Torres, a young lady who unfortunately lost her battle with cancer at the age of 9 several years back. But we have had the privilege of working with this program to carry on her namesake and hopefully find some treatments and cures for this terrible disease that took a young life. So here the priority is research to cure pediatric cancer and improve treatment options. Again, the goal is to expand pediatric research capacity, the emphasis on clinical trials networks, and the health disparities piece is definitely here as well. And this is our youngest program. So we only have 2 years of history here, but the one really great thing that we can say here is that from the first year of funding to the second year of funding, the legislature saw fit to give us another $1 million worth of resources to fund in grants. So while this is a small program, it is growing, and I think that that is something that's very encouraging for pediatric cancer research in our state. Okay, we'll talk through the application process now. This is something that is outlined in the funding opportunity announcement. And the new funding opportunity announcements are now available on our program website as well. So if you want to access those and download the PDF, please do. We can also send those out to our bulk mailer today, so that if there was anybody you wanted to share it with, they would have it that way as well. So the annual State of Florida grant application process for these programs is as follows. We receive the budget. We find out how much is available to fund in grants. So that's the start. Our Biomedical Research Advisory Council reviews the FOA from the past cycle. If they have any changes that they would like to suggest to us, then we will incorporate those changes. Sometimes the department seeks their advice on changes to issues that have arisen with eligibility or a process step that we want their advice on. And so they will suggest revisions, we will incorporate those revisions, and then the funding opportunity announcement would get finalized by the department. We then post the FOA to our program website, and we open up the doors for questions and answers. So the question and answer period has begun. If you have any questions that you think about after the webinar that we didn't address during the webinar, please feel free to email research@flhealth.gov, and we'll be happy to help you through those things. We also have a great resource, which is the frequently asked questions document, which you can also download from our program website. And that contains, by topic area, questions that we have received from applicants in the past. So you have all of that history there. And oftentimes, if there is a question that you have, that is your best resource. Rather than reaching out to us by email and waiting for a response, you could go to the frequently asked questions and find your answers there. The LOI submission period. Okay, so the FOA is posted. We anticipate being able to open up the intake site to start accepting letters of intent on Monday, July 1st. If that changes for any reason, we will definitely send out an announcement through our bulk mailer so that everyone knows, and we'll post information about any changes to the program website. But as of now, we anticipate opening on Monday to start accepting letters of intent. After the letter of intent period closes, we internally conduct an administrative review of all of the letters that we received. So the things that we're checking for are, did the applicant submit duplicate applications? You can't submit more than one application to a single funding stream. So you could be a collaborator with one of your colleagues on multiple Bankhead Coley applications or multiple James and Esther King applications, but you can only be the PI on one, or rather, using the language from within the FOAs, the corresponding principal investigator. We can have multiple PIs on these projects, but only one corresponding principal investigator. So we're checking for that. We're also checking to be sure that you haven't submitted the same proposal to multiple funding streams. So if you think that you have something good that would fit under both Bankhead Coley and James and Esther King, you have to choose one. You can't submit to both. So we're checking for those sorts of things, and we're also checking for accuracy and completeness. Please keep in mind that there are fields within the LOI that cannot be changed after the LOI period closes. So you want to have your title accurate. You want to be sure that that the pieces from within the LOI that are noted in the intake site that you will not be able to change, please pay very close attention to those. You will not be able to change those once the LOI period closes and we hit the main application stage. Okay, so after administrative review, assuming that you have passed that phase of the process, the grant proposal submission period will begin, and you will be free to proceed and start your proposal. The schedule of all these dates is also available in the FOA. So once you have submitted your proposal, we do another stage of administrative review. This one is much more intense because we're checking for accuracy and completion over a very large document. So if you had answered yes to the human subjects question that you would be using human subjects in your research, please pay careful attention and make sure that you are answering all of the questions within the system that pertain to human subjects. The same goes for vertebrate animals or for stem cells. So we're checking for completeness there. We're also checking to be sure that all of the required uploads are included. So, be careful and be sure that you include both the budget and the budget narrative. If you're going to include consultants, please be sure to include consultant letters from each of your consultants, that sort of thing. And all of that is also outlined in the funding opportunity announcement. So assuming that you have gotten this far and you have passed the administrative review stage, we then move into the peer review. So we now have a two-stage peer review process similar to NIH. At the first stage of peer review, all of the applications that we receive get 3 independent reviews. Those reviewers are not in contact with each other. They are just reviewing on their own and giving your application the score that they think is most appropriate. If your application scores high enough after that initial stage of review, you will progress to the panel review stage. And at that stage, we have somewhere around 10 to maybe 16 reviewers who are grouped by subject matter, and your application would get grouped along with other applications that were covering similar subject matter. And we would have our panel of experts from outside the state review and come to an agreement on what your final score would be. So after all of that is complete, our advisory council meets. They review the score summaries and the research priorities that you've applied under. And based upon the scores and your research priorities, sometimes they even look at your abstract. Well, actually, oftentimes they're looking at your abstract. They would come up with their funding recommendation list. Now, all of the information that they receive is de-identified, so they won't encounter any conflict of interest by knowing who the applicants are. So they come up with their funding recommendation list, and then that is presented to the State Surgeon General, who finalizes awards. Once that happens, once we have the go-ahead from the State Surgeon General or their delegate, we are able to proceed with sending out award announcements and get started with the process of executing these grants and getting started. And you can, once the grant is executed, you can start up with your research, and it feels like you take maybe 2 or 3 breaths, and then it's time to start the whole thing over again. So that is an overview of the process. For those of you who have applied to us multiple times, this is very familiar to you. The only thing that has changed over the last couple of years is the second stage of peer review. But otherwise, all of this is consistent with years past.
And if you could just stay on that slide for a minute. Okay. So if you look again in the Florida statutes, history tells us that the state surgeon general has always been the one to determine the awards, and they are the final say-so. Bankhead, Coley, and Bella statute indicates that the awards are made by the department. We've always interpreted that to be the state surgeon general. But in King, it specifically says in statute that the grants will be awarded by the state surgeon general. And that was the holdup in us being able to finalize and award the King grants. We don't anticipate that being a problem in the future, but just wanted to go ahead and get that information out to you so you have a better understanding. Okay.
So I'm going to turn it back to Bonnie now, and she's going to talk about some lessons learned over the years.
Yes, thank you. We do have a question and answer period. It is the only time that you'll be able to ask questions and get responses back from the department staff. We will respond to every question, even if it's a duplicate, but we will note that it is a duplicate and answered in question, whatever it is. This is a good opportunity for you to, any questions or concerns that you may have. The question and answer period is not the time to get feedback from us on what kind of grant application should you submit or topic area. That is not our job and not our expertise, but we can guide you through the process. There are forms that are required in the application. We're using the same application intake system that we've used over the last several years. You need to use the required forms. The budget form is an example. BioSketch is another example. The reason why we have the required forms so that everyone is evaluated on the same playing field. We don't want staff here to have to make judgment calls on whether there's enough information. Everyone should be on the same level playing field. You've got to use the forms. The forms are found in the online application. We have worked very hard to make it the easiest application process ever. But you want to be judged fairly. We want to judge you fairly. Use the forms. You need to make sure that all questions are addressed. All blanks are filled in, and that includes human subjects, vertebrate animals, stem cells, recombinant DNA. You must answer all the questions. You need to answer them completely. Once again, we want to refer your application to peer review, who will be able to fairly score your application. Over the last couple years, the Department of Financial Services, which actually pays the invoices, has changed the guidance that we've had to apply for research grants. And that includes the research participant incentives. Currently, only gift cards can be given, no cash, and it is limited to $36 a day. We continue to work with the Department of Financial Services to educate on research grants versus a typical contract. But for right now, this is the guidance that we're given. So no research participant incentives over $36 a day. Now, for travel, note the Florida statute. That is important because that'll give you guidelines on what is allowable. Only travel within the United States is allowed. Canada is not included. Mexico is not included. Just to be clear. Okay. If you go to floridahealth.gov and you search out biomedical research, if you go to, there'll be a section that says resources. That'll provide you with more information specifically on incentives, on travel. It'll even give you examples of what a completed travel reimbursement form looks like, which is required also by the Department of Financial Services for us to get your travel paid. I also wanted to note, as Teresa was going through the number of applications and the number of awarded, we typically are only able to fund about 8% of our total applications. We have noted that for applications that are not funded and who reapply, and you have to identify this as a reapplication, but the percentage of reapplications that get funded is much higher. Now, we don't look specific, we do not look to see who has reapplied, and you're not given any additional advantage, but we did a look back and did determine that reapplying definitely increases your fundability. And all I can say that, to me, it means that the peer review comments provide good input for you. And so if you did get your peer review and comments back and you did not get funded, that would be guidance that I would give to you. Okay, next page. All right. Okay. Once again, we talked about this earlier, but it is your responsibility to interpret what the priority areas are and the mechanisms of support that best fit your research. We will provide feedback on the funding opportunity announcement, but we're not going to give you priority area or mechanism of support feedback. We are not scientists. We are administrators, and so work as a team, and you decide what's best for you. Okay, as Teresa had mentioned before, a corresponding principal investigator can only submit one application. But we have had instances where a principal investigator, corresponding principal investigator, has applied for more than one. That is not going to work. And once again, we're not going to make a decision on which one should go forward. So do your best with one. For the for the James and Esther King Research Grant Program, if you are planning to do a cessation-based program, you will need to request a letter of support from Tobacco Free Florida. The contact information is found in the schedule of important dates in the funding opportunity announcement. The funding opportunity announcements are posted on our website. This date is wrong. Let me just tell you that you will need to request a letter of support from Tobacco Free Florida by August 19th, 2019. We will update this slide, and we will post the PowerPoint presentation. But once again, it is in the schedule of important dates. Okay. As mentioned earlier about the reapplying, all right, for 17-18, 6 of the 20 awards for Bankhead, Coley, King were resubmitted proposals. So that's important. Okay. Don't wait until the last hour to complete the online application. I can tell you that we get a huge surge of applications being submitted the last afternoon. If you are in the system and working to complete your application, and you go to 5:00 p.m. and you're still working on it, the system will close and you will be unable to finish your application and submit it. As things get crazy towards the end, getting close to the deadline, we tend to get calls from folks that have questions, they're having issues. Budget your time wisely so that you have the time to thoroughly complete the application and to present the information that you want presented. Those are the lessons learned that we have to share with you, and we are now open to answer questions.
Okay, so we do have a few questions. Can unfunded applications be revised and resubmitted, assuming reviews are mostly positive and critiques can be addressed or clarified? Yes, you absolutely can. So it is very similar to the way that you would resubmit for an NIH grant. You will have an opportunity to address any concerns that were raised by your peer reviewers. Please highlight any changes that you've made to your application so that the reviewers this time around can see that this was a concern that was raised and that you are addressing it, and you've come up with a strategy for mitigating any weaknesses that were brought up. So yes, you absolutely can do that. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that if you had another project that is a new project that you wanted to submit during this cycle, you'll have to decide which one you want to submit. You can only submit one per funding stream, so one Bankhead Coley, one James and Esther King, or one Live Like Bella. So if you had a resubmission for any of those, that means that you would not be able to submit a new application under that funding stream. So yes, the short answer to your question, though, is yes, you absolutely can. You can resubmit. Can I be a PI on one application for James and Esther King and a co-PI on another application also for the James and Esther King program? Yes, that is absolutely a-okay. The only limitation is the number of applications that you serve as the corresponding principal investigator on. So for these programs, you can be a corresponding principal investigator on a maximum of 3 proposals, but there's no maximum on the number of applications that you could be a co-PI or collaborator on. Can we request that a previous reviewer not be used on our application again if they provided an inappropriate or non-scientific comment in their review? Absolutely. we don't share the identities of any of our peer reviewers with our applicants, but if you get in touch with us through our research inbox, research@flhealth.gov, tell us the number of the peer reviewer that you would like to not have on your application again, and we can talk with our peer review vendor and see if there is some way of making sure that they are no longer included in our peer review pool. And if you know the name of a specific peer reviewer that you would not want to. We don't share the names with our peers. But if you know someone that you would not want to have included as a peer reviewer, then you can absolutely include their name and their institution in your application as well. So that's another way of addressing that issue. Okay, can you tell me the approximate date for the LOI for the Bankhead Coley program? I'm not entirely certain if you're asking about the date that it will open or the date that it will close. We are anticipating having it open on the 1st, which is Monday, and then our closing date is the 26th of July. So that is that. And you would find all of these in the schedule of important dates in the FOAs. So each of the FOAs has an outline of all of the important dates and deadlines. And I shared the link to the FOAs in the chat box just a few minutes ago. So if you want to go there and check out that table of important dates, that would answer those questions. Can you confirm the number of times an application can be revised and resubmitted? The guidance that we have provided is that you can revise and resubmit once. Beyond that, it becomes a drain on the department's resources. And we already receive a large volume of applications, and if there are significant weaknesses in an application, we don't want to pay for peer review of that application again and again and again. So our guidance is that it should not be revised and resubmitted more than once. Let's see. Do we have to submit resubmission modification along with the LOI? Yes, we ask that you provide that information at the time that you submit the LOI. Do you notify whether LOIs are accepted or not to submit full application? So what we typically do is we will contact you if there's an issue with your LOI. And if there's an issue, then that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, once the application opens up, if you haven't heard anything negative from us, take that as a positive and go ahead and start your application. Let's see.
If I could just add, one of the main reasons for a letter of intent is so we can go ahead and give our peer review vendor a heads up on the kind of research that we're anticipating being submitted, so they can already start vetting peer reviewers.
Right. How and with whom can we communicate our preference for the reviewers? That is within the application. So there is a field not within the letter of intent, but the main proposal. Once that opens up, you'll be able to enter that in there. If you don't know the name of the reviewer that you received in the past, but you want to be sure that they are not included on your review in the future, you can say, reviewer 1 from my proposal that was submitted during this particular funding cycle, so give us the dates of the funding cycle, title of the proposal that was submitted, any applications or any information that you can share with us so that we can narrow down with our peer review vendor who that individual was so that they will not be included on your review panel in the future. So the number of the reviewer, the date of the application cycle that you submitted, title of your application. And if you know the name of your reviewer, include that. How can one become a reviewer? Well, if you are a researcher within the state of Florida, you are not in a good place if you wanted to be a reviewer, that you wouldn't be able to review as a Florida researcher. All of our peer reviewers are MDs, PhDs, people with a strong background in research. It is a very similar quality of researcher as you would see among NIH peer review panels. So we contract with peer review vendors. Their name is Oak Ridge Associated Universities, and they have a pool of literally thousands of experts who they work with to make sure that your research proposal is paired with people who will know what you're talking about. Let's see, how long is the LOI submission open? It closes the 26th, and it will open Monday. Let's see. Is LOI submission required? Yes, it is. You will not only will you not be put into the pool of people who we are finding peer reviewers for, but you won't even have access to the main application if you have not submitted an LOI. So you absolutely must submit the LOI before the LOI deadline.
But if you submit a letter of intent and then choose not to submit a full application, that's fine too.
Right. Is there a specific form to introduce a reapplication? There isn't a form. There will be a text box in the letter of intent where you will receive the prompt. There will be a question that asks whether or not this is a new application or if it's a resubmission. And then there will be a text box underneath that in which you can address any of the changes that you have made. So there's no specific form, but there is a text box within the letter of intent. It is expected to have the same reviewers if you are okay with them. No, not necessarily. It's like I said with one of the previous answers, we have thousands of peer reviewers that ORA works with, so you won't necessarily be paired up with the same reviewers from year to year. It depends upon expertise, of course, but also availability. So yeah, you might not have the same reviewers from year to year. James and Esther team also includes cancers. Many cancers are cancer-related. Please clarify this. I'm not entirely certain what you're asking. I think maybe you're asking about many tobacco-related diseases are cancer-related. So I'm not completely certain what you're getting at there. What I can say is that the place in the funding opportunity announcement where you should look is the research priorities section. I believe that's page 4. If you go there, it's going to detail the types of research that we are looking to fund in the next funding cycle. Okay, I'm seeing that you said, thanks, I've read it, but it leaves some confusion about applying for the James and Esther team for cancer research. Even if the cancer, such as lung or prostate, etc., has connection to tobacco smoking, are there any particular features that would qualify/disqualify cancer research from this mechanism? It has to be related to tobacco-related disease. And the onus is on you as the applicant to provide that connection. So there is a section within the application where you will be asked to explain the connection of your research to tobacco-related disease or tobacco-related cancer. And that section will be scored by peer reviewers. So, so if you think that what you are working on would fit under the King umbrella of research that would be covered under that FOA, please absolutely do apply, but bear in mind that you will need to provide a clear connection between what you are doing and the types of cancer, the tobacco-related disease focus of this FOA. What is the ratio of applications received to funding? So these are very competitive grants, and with the number of applications that we receive, over the last couple of years, it's grown. So we are averaging over 200 applications per funding cycle, and because of that, because our funding pool has not grown, we are only able to fund between 7 and 8% of the applications that we receive. What is the specific format for resubmission? Is this a one-page response similar to NIH? It is not. Oh, it isn't one page. The limit is on characters, so it's a 3,500 character limit. That is including spaces. There's no specific formatting for it. It's just a text box. So watch for that in the LOI.
But let me just add that you do have to resubmit an entire application.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And so you'll still need to complete all of that. And the application itself will be in the same format as a new application. When is the last day to submit the LOI? Again, those dates are in the schedule of important dates. Sorry, and my computer just died. So my battery ran out. Any questions that you have that were not answered yet, you can send those to research@flhealth.gov. I apologize. The question box is only available to the one that is actually administering the webinar. So you could submit them by chat if you want everyone to see them. Otherwise, I think that we will need to cut this webinar or bring this to a close. You can submit your questions, anything that was not addressed yet, to research@flhealth.gov. As for the end date, though, for submitting your letter of intent, that is, again, July 26th. Okay. So,
all right. Well, thank you, and best of luck to everybody. And so look for the application cycle to open up July 1st. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.